mouth to feed, so he was taking her to the settlement in the morning, and she'd have to find work there. Molly Jacobs wept for the girl, but knew her husband would never change his mind. The following morning, Jacobs tied Bridie's horse to his buckboard and told her to climb up and sit on the seat beside him. Molly Jacobs was crying when she handed Bridie her bundle of clothes and several biscuits wrapped in pieces of cloth. Bridie began to cry as the buckboard bounced down the dirt road that led into town. Lowry was a desolate place that consisted of a sutler store, a livery, and a saloon. Jacobs reined in his team in front of the store, untied Bridie's horse and tied it to the hitch rail, then turned his buckboard around and returned home. Bridie entered the store, where a disheveled little man with a pockmarked face stood watching the buckboard leave town. She cringed when the man turned to her, and his rheumy eyes swept over her body. He wiped brown spittle from his puffy lips and said, "What's your name, girl? And why'd Jacobs leave you here?"
"I'm Bridie Cantor. My folks died, so Mr. Jacobs told me I could rent a room here in town."
The sutler began pulling at his trousers, then grinned, saying, "So your folks is dead, and that dumbass Jacobs brings you here to me." The storekeeper grabbed Bridie by the arm, saying, "Well, missy, I remember your pa. He came in here a while back and run up a big tab for some supplies, and that deadbeat never paid for 'em, so it's your debt now." Bridie was trembling when she said,
"I can find work and pay what he owes you."
The sutler reached out and fondled Bridie's small breast, saying, "Oh, you're gonna pay your old man's debts all right. We're going in the back so you can start paying right now." Bridie pulled away from him, saying,
"Mister, you can have my horse to settle Pa's bill."
The sutler's voice was hoarse, and his face was flushed when he said, "I don't want that damn nag. I want you." He grabbed her by her thin shoulders and pulled her against him. He tried to kiss her, and when she smelled his foul breath, bile rose in her throat, and she retched. The sutler was swearing when he wiped the front of his shirt. He was angry and breathing hard when he began dragging her toward the back room, then froze in his tracks when he heard someone shout,
"You leave that little girl alone, you filthy old bastard."
That voice belonged to Big Sally Dowling, owner of Lowry's Red Dog Saloon. Sally made quite an impression as she stood framed in the sutler's doorway. She was a large-boned woman, weighing at least 350 pounds, with ample breasts that spilled over the top of the low-cut green silk dress she wore cinched tightly at the waist. Sally's porcelain complexion was accented by full ruby lips and painted cheeks. She had a thick mop of flaming red hair and was a striking woman despite her enormous size. Sally had a booming voice, and when she laughed, she was heard well beyond the swinging doors of the Red Dog. But Sally wasn't laughing now. She was very angry.
"Harper," shouted Sally, "what the hell were you figuring to do to that little gal?"
"Nothing," grumbled the man. "Old man Jacobs dumped her off here, and she told me she needed a place to stay, so I was just trying to help her out, that's all." Bridie stood wide-eyed, staring at the woman, towering over the diminutive storekeeper, and said,
"I came here to rent a room, and he told me my pa owes him money for supplies, and I gotta pay Pa's debt. I said I'd give him my horse, but he won't take it."
Big Sally was livid with rage when she said,
"You're a miserable, lying little shit, Lou Harper. You never let a soul leave this place with so much as a single bean without him paying for it."
She moved towards him, saying,
"I heard what you said to this kid, so I'm going to clear them nasty thoughts right out of that old bald head."
The sutler's face paled. He had faced Sally's wrath before when he beat on one of her saloon girls, so he retreated behind the counter, saying, "Take it easy, Sal. I wasn't going to hurt her." Sally glared at the sutler and said,
"You're damn right you won't. I know what you are, you slimy shit. So if I catch you anywhere near this young girl again, I'll kick you so hard in your nuts they'll pop out your ears like corks."
Sally put her arm around Bridie and said,
"Come with me, honey. I'll find a place for you to stay, and you can keep that old horse of yours. You don't need to worry about that ugly old fart bothering you anymore."